Go ahead, Josh. Gotta talk loud and clear.
We are going to interview Mimi and Boppy. Okay. Boppy, what did you think of Mimi when you first saw her?
When I first saw her,
And when was it? Where was it?
Yeah, when was it and where?
I don't remember.
It was an honest answer.
Let's see, and I think it was at school. We went to the same junior high school, middle school.
How about
And
college?
I probably saw her in the hallway or help me out.
Okay, Mimi, what did you think of Boppy when you first saw him?
Well, I doubt that he remembers seeing me at all. We lived only about 3 blocks apart, and I used to see him walking to the bus stop because I walked to the same bus stop. And he was very shy. He never spoke. He never even looked our direction. I would stand there with some other girls, and he would just stand over here by himself. So I doubt that he even knew who I was or that I existed. But one day, I was invited to a Sadie Hawkins party. I was 14. This is in September, and I was to turn 15 in December. And this party was for a boy at church. His name was Lloyd Womack. And so I thought, now this is the ideal opportunity. All the girls have to ask the boys. So I called him on the telephone, which was not done in that day. It is done now, but girls did not call boys then, and asked him if he would like to go to a Sadie Hawkins birthday party. And to my great surprise, he said yes. And my mother and daddy had never met him. They did know where he lived and who he was, and Daddy tells the story now that I told Daddy that I was going to marry him. I don't know if I said that, if I was that, but I don't, do you remember me calling you and asking you out to that? See, that's the thing, is he has forgotten all of the treasures of our whole lives, see. Anyway, so we went to the party. We rode on the bus. The only catch was we never got to the party. We honestly and truly got lost.
Taylor.
So he said, why don't we go to a movie? And not wanting to be a real dull person, I said, okay. Now, meanwhile, Mother and Daddy had told me to go straight to the party and straight home. So we went to a movie. I had to be home at a certain time, and by the time I got home, the lady who was having the party had already called them and told them that I never got there. I was in big trouble. And Mother and Daddy says, you will never date that boy again. Never. So you can forget it.
Why?
So say, how did you date him again?
How did you date him again?
Well, I knew that if I could invite him to church, that Mother and Daddy would soften, and that once they met him, that they would like him. And I knew that if he would come to church, they would automatically like him. So I asked Mother and Daddy one day, I said, can I invite Gilbert to church? And they said yes, and he came. And then he started going to church with me all the time. And then they got to know him, so they liked him, and they actually believed that we got lost and that we just didn't go to the movie and disobey.
Here you go, Mama.
I hope she asked you something you remember, honey.
Yeah, let me just say that, yes, the other day, last week, when I took your dad to the cemetery, you mentioned that your mother probably liked, she was the first one to like me more than you or him.
Mama liked you.
Yeah.
Mama's always liked you.
And
Mama.
she always, she would always stuff food down me. And that's why I'm so enormous, that she has always fed me so well.
One time we broke up, and I was going with somebody else, and there was a street called Irvington down here, and there was an Irvington bus line, and then there was a Fulton bus line, and my house is right in the middle. And invariably, Gilbert would walk down from Irvington to get to his house, and Mother would look out the window and say, "Oh, Dorothy, he's so sad. How could you do this to him?" And she really...
Talk loud and clear.
Why did you guys want to get married?
Why did we guys want to get married?
Why did you guys want to get
Okay.
married?
Do you want to answer that?
Well, we had been dating each other for about 5 years, and we got along extremely well. We loved each other for, you know, we knew each other very, very well. So we felt like we would enjoy being married. And I say you know, too often people get married, they know their partners too for such a short time. But we knew each other for a long time, and so we knew that we liked the same things, and we enjoyed each other. So that's why I think we thought we would enjoy being married.
We actually, and he spent so much money dating, it was a lot cheaper just to get married. Also, we had a bank account together in Dorothy Stone and Gilbert Thomas's name 2 years before we got married. So we were already sharing things.
Okay, my next question. Why are you so rich?
Why are we so rich?
Yes. No, why are you so rich?
Why are we so rich? Oh, I think that we are probably rich because of our family. If we didn't have the family that we had, we wouldn't be so rich. Now, we're not rich in money, but we are really rich in blessings and in our children and our grandchildren. That's what makes us rich.
Okay, next question is, okay, who was the richest when you first started dating?
What?
Who was the richest when we first started dating? You were working part-time, so I guess you were.
Okay.
Where were you working, Boppy?
I think I was working as a sheet metal worker at the Houston Sheet Metal Company when we were dating.
Very good. Jossie, would you turn the thing on?
Here, why don't you give me and Boppy a hug? Kiss, tell them good night. Go on upstairs. So, yeah,
You little beauty. Thank you.
I'll just hug Rocky.
You just hugged me.
Yes,
Okay.
hug.
Just a hug.
Okay, okay.
That's a hug.
That's not
Oh, okay. Boppy, where did you propose to her?
She proposed to me.
Okay.
And I said yes.
You believe that, Josh?
I think we were downtown. It was might have been Armistice that day, but we'd gone to the movie that day. We saw 3 movies, and then we always walked by jewelry shops, and she'd want to look at the wedding rings. and we decided that she saw a ring she really wanted, and I said, well, she said, why don't we get married? And we'll tell our parents, and they were at the Coliseum watching a show, circus, and we were to join them later. So we went to the circus, and we announced to them that we were going to get married. So I didn't actually ask her parents if we could get married. I just told them.
And most of that is the truth, Josh. But the part about me asking him, you can forget it. We did look at rings, and then, you know, he says, well, why don't we buy one? And we did. We had gone to see one movie, and we went in, bought the ring, and they were having it sized, and we went to see another movie. And when we came out of the second movie, they had it all fixed and ready to go. So actually, he didn't even ask me, and I didn't even say yes or no. We just decided to buy the rings.
Okay, what movie did you see?
Do you remember?
Oh, no.
It was The Blue Veil with Jane Wyman.
What other movie did you see?
I don't remember the other two at all. I only remember that one.
Okay, where did you get married?
Where? We got married at the old Calumet building. At then, we were still a mission in Houston. And Gilbert wasn't a member of the church, even though he'd been going for a long time. And so we were married in the cultural hall of the Calumet building, because then they didn't allow you to marry in the chapel.
Okay, I just had a curiosity. Have you ever been in a car crash?
I'll let you answer that.
We were not married. We were dating, and her father was in the car business, used car business, and he had loaned us his car. They'd bought a brand new Dodge.
Yellow.
It probably wasn't 2 or 3 months old, and she asked her dad if I could drive her to
The prom.
her year-end prom, school prom. And so we went out there, and I got a speeding ticket going out 35 miles an hour in a 30-mile zone. So coming back, we was at Irvington and Cross Timbers, and it's a 4-way stop sign, and I stopped the car, and the other car was coming real slow, and I thought he was going to stop, so I started out, and he hit me broadside, and there was 2 colored gentlemen that was stone dead drunk, and they, at that time, Irvington Street had a real deep ditch, and their car went over into the ditch, and they couldn't get out, and we just went probably a half a block or so and stopped, and I got out, and they were trying to get out, and I didn't have a driver's license at the time, and so it ended up, they said they would pay the $50 deductible on the insurance to get our car fixed, and in the meantime, I would get a driver's license. So Dorothy's mother took Joanne, her cousin, and Dorothy and me to Humboldt, Texas, which was just about 30 miles north of Houston. the next week, I believe, and we passed our driver's license. So we got the traffic ticket was dismissed, and as well as any charges on mine for the accident, because the guy that got was ticketed by the police were charged with drinking alcohol and having the accident.
And Josh, Mother and Daddy didn't even get mad at him. They didn't even get mad at him. You know, they liked him so much, they thought he could do no wrong. Now, if that had been me or Rudy, we'd have had it. But they kept their cool, and they just thought he was as cool as he could be, and didn't even get upset with him.
Okay. Do any of you guys snore?
Now do either of us snore?
Snore? Huh? That's a good question. It's not a very interesting one.
It's not a very polite one either.
I'm sure I do sometimes if I'm extremely tired. And Dorothy snores if she's tired.
And it's very unladylike, and if I could control it, I would. But I do know that I do when I'm real tired. But it's a horrible thing for a woman to do.
And it's a terrible thing for an interviewer to ask.
I'm sorry. When you guys were going out, did Papa ever take your fingerprints or ask you a lot of questions?
Oh, when I was going out?
You were dating me.
I think she's implying that at times you give people a hard time, like asking for driver's license and fingerprints.
Oh.
I think the question is, did Papa give you a hard time?
Oh, Papa, no, he never gave me a hard time. He was always my buddy because I'm the only one that could crawl underneath their house, and was dumb enough and skinny enough to crawl in, and there'd be water underneath the house, and I would turn their oven on,
The gas on
the floor furnace for the winter. So he would normally wait until it was real cold, and there was water underneath the house, and there was spiders and snakes, and so I actually had to wait underneath the house, and I'd light the furnace, and I'd wait get back out. Well, it was kind of scary because I didn't like it, but it was easy thing to do. But it was in the middle of the house. He could not have done it himself, and Rudy was too small to do it, to ask him. So he was always asking me to do certain things to help him.
And he did all this for love, Josh.
All this for love.
Okay. Did anybody else propose to you, Mimi?
Yeah.
What? What?
But they didn't mean anything.
Did you ever think you guys would get married?
Yeah, I think so. Something that's interesting, Josh, we talked about the car. Boppy there's 5 boys in his family, and they only had one car. And of course, he never got the car because he had older brothers. And his dad used to take the car and go hunting with them. And they had about 4 hunting dogs. Well, the very first night that he got the car and we were going to date, Grandpa had got back from a hunting trip. The car smelled awful. Gilbert washed it, and he put all kinds of air fresheners in it and emptied about 3 bottles of Old Spice shaving lotion. When he came to pick me up, and he opened that door, and I smelled dog plus Old Spice shaving lotion, I gagged. but he was so proud that he had it so clean and smelling so good. And we only got to use his car once a year. That's why we were always using Mother and Daddy's car. We dated on the bus, basically. Basically, our 5 years we dated on the bus. And nobody would do that now. Would you? No, nobody would.
What age did you guys get married at?
That's incriminating.
What age?
Well, I was 19, and I didn't have to have my parents' consent. Because for a girl, if you're over 18, you don't have to have your consent. Boppy was 20, but he had to have his parents' consent because the fellas had to be 21. So I was 19 and he was 20. That was 44 years ago, Joss. 44 years ago.
Who married you?
His name was Benjamin L. Baring. He was the mission president at that time. A dear, dear man. And it's just really special that he also sealed your mother and daddy in the temple. He sealed Kelly and Gordon in the temple. And he also sealed Tracy and Kevin in the temple. So he was a very, very special man to us.
Okay, Bobby, where'd you get all those cough drops?
Or why does he use them so much?
Yeah, why do you have so many?
Well, that's a good question, and there's no answer for it.
Oh, there is an answer.
Oh, is there?
Uh-huh.
I need cough drops for throat, my throat. I get swollen throat season. 9 months out of the year, no, probably 6 months. And the other time is just habit.
So you have that many just for your throat?
But that's not what started it. You want me to tell you what started it? The first time I ever saw him, he had on a white dress shirt, no tie, and what they called then drapes. They're like dress pants now, except they were really full. Now, you have to remember that Boppy was about 6'2", and he was very, very thin. And the first time I saw him, he was standing up against a tree, and he was smoking a cigarette. But he was the best looking thing I had ever seen in my entire life.
Oh.
And at that age, he was the sexiest looking thing smoking that cigarette.
Oh, God.
Now, afterwards, when he found out how wrong it was to smoke, he had to stop. And he had a hard time stopping. And you know what he did to stop? He chewed gum and he ate lifesavers. And that's how he got hooked on always having something in his mouth. He was always chewing gum or eating lifesavers, or now it's cough drops. And he's got a lot of youth hooked on cough drops. We went to a wedding reception not too long ago, and the young man, Carl Torgerson, says, "I remember you always had cough drops and they were the best I ever had." And I thought, how could that be? But a lot of kids think they're good. But he was sexy, Joss.
What's the rating on this interview?
Why did you say yes, Mimi?
Why did I say yes? Well, like I told you, he didn't really ask that. I didn't say yes. We were just looking in the window at rings, and he says, "Well, why don't we go buy one?" And I says, "Okay, let's go." So I guess that's the reason I said yes. Plus, you know, I had dated some boys at the Y that were members of the church, and they were nice and good boys, but I had never dated anybody like your Boppy as far as being a gentleman, and his standards and his qualities were higher than those of most of the other boys I had dated. Is that a little gooey? That's getting a little gushy, okay?
Okay, Boppy, why did you say yes?
Why did I ask what?
Yeah, never mind. Have you guys ever been to Alaska?
No.
No.
Okay. Where did you guys go on your honeymoon?
Oh, to New Orleans.
Okay, Dad. What about the Army?
The Army, I was drafted, and your mother, Mimi, was at
We'd been married
BYU.
7 months when he was drafted.
What do
We
you mean
were
by
married
drafted?
7 months when he was drafted.
What does that mean?
We had been together only a
No.
short time.
Drafted.
What should know what drafted means?
Oh. That's when the government sends you a letter and it says, "Greetings, Gilbert Thomas. You are now asked to join the U.S. Army." And when they say asked, you can't say no, you go. And he was literally asked by the government to come and fight in the Korean War, and we'd only been married 7 months. So he went off to the Korean War, and I went back home to live.
Then how come they say you are asked?
They're just being polite.
They really don't say that.
They just say greetings.
Yeah, greetings, and they don't ask you, they tell you. So there's no asking. But I served in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, is where I took my basic training, and then after maybe 6 months or 4.5 months, I went to Korea, and I was over there 18 months. And
Tell them about the ship ride.
well, the ship ride I had over there, we had a ship in Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, and it was operating on the Atlantic side of the United States, and they wanted it on the Pacific side. So we got on that sucker in New Jersey and went all the way around the Atlantic side, up the Panama Canal, over to Hawaii, to Japan, and we got from Japan, and we got on a train, and there was no windows or air conditioning, and so these coal driven train, all the soot would come back, just filter through the train, and so we were black by the time we got to where we were going, and we traveled 900 miles on that train. It took us a couple of days to get there, and then we flew over. No, we went got on a boat and went to Seoul, Korea.
Did you get sick on that ship?
And it took us 37 days to be on that ship. And the only thing that kept me going was good old crackers and peanut butter. And I wasn't able to eat anything because everything I ate, I threw up. And so we also went through a typhoon, on the edge of a typhoon, and everyone was sick. And it was really bad weather going over. And so people they'd get sick and then normally go to the side of the ship and throw up. When you throw up, well, the wind would bring it back up and throw it in your face. And so going home, we went directly from Japan to Seattle, Washington, which is only 11 days, and the water was relatively smooth, and it was nice, quick trip. But the 37 days almost done me in.
Did you kill anybody?
No, I spent 12 months in minefields. We
You were defeated.
dug up minefields, and they were, most of them were U.S. minefields. But all we done was, for 12 months, was dig up minefields. And then the other time, I was in a demolitions squad, and that's all we did was to dig up minefields.
What's a demolition squad?
It's the type that a tank will drive over and it blows up the tank.
So mine is like a bomb. Bobby was working with bombs, digging them up, making them so they wouldn't work.
They had, if you've heard of the Bosnia conflict, there's our soldiers and Bosnians, people, the civilians have walked all over the countryside over there, and they estimate that there's some 26,000 mines that's still waiting in the ground, for somebody to step on. So all I did for 12 months was to dig up minefields, and I felt like that was kind of a little war itself, digging up those mines. It was very dangerous, but I was very young, and it was kind of fun.
So you could have been killed.
I sure could have been, yes.
The whole 18 months he was over there, we wrote each other every day. Is that sickening? Every day. But when I got my letters, they were usually 2 weeks old. It took that long for me to get his letters. Like, he would write them, say, on the 1st, and I wouldn't get them until the 15th because it took so long to get here. And knowing what he was doing, I cried almost every night because I just figured, I've got his letter, but he's probably dead. You know the way women think, huh?
I'm thinking.
Just, what I would be hold an interview such as this, and I would normally say that I apologize, but this interview is not interesting enough for it to continue any longer. So for the sake of my audience in the future generations, we'll have to discontinue this. And I would understand perfectly.
We're not done yet, Bobby.
One thing he did all of his life that got him in trouble, when he gets nervous, he smiles, he grins. He did this when he was a little boy. His mother worried about him when he went in the army because she was afraid he'd get in trouble, and he'd start smiling. Even the whole time he's been bishop, when he gets embarrassed, he smiles and he turns blood red. And he still does it, being this old. He gets very embarrassed and he smiles when he's in trouble. And when he was a little boy, it was really bad because his daddy would really get on him. His brothers would do things, they would run, and Gilbert would be the one his dad would catch. And he would always be in trouble because of that smile.
So that's where I get it from.
It is getting slow, isn't it, honey?
Yes.
I don't need that.
You need the microphone.
I will tell you this, Jossie, and it's very truthful and very important for you to know. The 44 years that we've been married has been marvelous years. And I think that basically it's because Boppy has some qualities that go a long way in making any relationship good. One, he has a sense of humor. And anytime I would get mad or I would throw my little fits, his main thing that he would say back to me is, I forgive you and I love you. I'd say, I don't want to be forgiven, I want to fight. But he wouldn't do that. He always had this sense of humor and he always had patience. So it's been a very, very good 44 years because he has a sense of humor and a lot of patience. I'm still working on my patience.
Does he do that with my dad and Tracy and Kelly?
He didn't do a whole lot of discipline with them. He was the fun. The kids probably like him better than me because he was the most fun. And anytime they wanted something and they were afraid he was going to say no, they would come to me first, then we'd all go to him. But they probably felt like he wasn't too difficult to get around.
If they asked one and then you said no and then they go to the other, do they?
Normally not. If I said no and then they went to him, he'd say, what did your mother say? And if I'd said no, there was no way he would let it be different. He always supported me, and I always supported him.
What if they say, well, go ask the other one, and then the other one says, well, go ask the other one? I don't know.
Well, then sometimes we'd talk about it. But kids play each other. We never did that game.
You're done?
Mm-hmm.
You think of any more years? Tell us about the last 4 or 5 months.
The last 4 or 5 months. This has been a real difficult year in growing, but we have grown, or I have grown. Boppy and I have for 44 years marriage and 5 years dating, that's 49 years we've known each other. So we know a lot about each other. But the last few months we've grown even closer. We know now that when we got married and what we felt was love, but nothing compared to what we feel now. And we're so much closer. We feel like we are growing, and that because he's had some sickness and I've had some sickness, we've found out what's really important. And I think both of us agree that the most important thing in our lives and the whole world is first our relationship with our Heavenly Father and the gospel, and the second is our family and our kids. They are, y'all stop laughing, Jossie and Gilbert. See, look at him. See, this is what he gets in trouble for, Joss. And anyway, the family, if we didn't have our family, we would not have been able to get through the last 4 months. But when Candace asked us how rich we are, I look back now and I think we are the most blessed family, and we are rich in blessings. And I'm going to get both you and Boppy. But it's been hard, but we've grown. Does that answer, John? She's just got her tickle box turned upside down.
Ask Bobby if he can name all his grandchildren.
Name all your grandchildren.
Name all your grandchildren.
Oh, gee whiz, that's not fair. let's see, Jocelyn.
Start at the oldest and go down, do you?
No.
Okay.
You don't think so? I don't think so.
Okay, you do it your
Jocelyn,
way.
Candace, and Taylor. Kevin, Jared, Adam, Ashley, and Brittany. Christopher, and Tiffany, and Austin, and Thomas.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
What do you, what do you wanna do while you're here, Dad?
What I want to do is spend some time. We're both, I'm legally retired, and your mother soon will be. But for several years, I wanted to do our genealogy work in our family line, and just recently, 2 days before we left to come here, my sister sent me a package containing records that was on my mother's side, which came from England, from some distant relative about mother's line, and a couple of people on my dad's side, including my sister and some cousins, became interested, and they put together a lot of information on Dad's lines. And so we have done the genealogy and sealing work for Mother and Dad, but now we want to do their grandparents and link them all together as far as we can. So I really want to get started on this genealogy work and get serious about it and have the work done as far back as we can. But we're preparing to, we hope to, as soon as we both recover, we want to work in the temple maybe 2 days a week, and when probably in 6 months or a year go on a mission. And so we're trying to prepare ourselves for that.
Anything else in the next 5 years, Mom?
No, I guess I really am anxious for the working in the temple before we go on our mission, and then we've talked as a family on having 1 or 2 family reunions in different places, and that basically is the next important thing to me. We had one a couple of summers ago where we all got together, and I think those are memories that we never forget, and it's very important.
Do you have another question? Okay, you done?
Where are we gonna go next?
Oh, we talked about going to Nauvoo.
Is that all right?
Listen, I hate to cut this off, but it's past my bedtime, and I'm really getting sleepy. The questions
Are dull,
are
dull.
getting rather dull, and so
And the answers are even duller.
I would say that's probably true, but you know, stay tuned. You know, for more, but for now,